The whole village watched Chiku and Qualia like they were birds in a cage. People whispered and pointed when they walked down the street. It wasn't easy. They were young and in love, but they had made a promise to each other. They would wait until they were married to be together. It wasn't the easy way, but they believed in their love. They knew it was strong enough to wait. But Qualia was shocked when he knew this. Qualia was head over heels for Chiku. Their relationship was a fairy tale. He truly believed she was the most honest, genuine person he'd ever encountered. The world seemed to fade away when he looked at her. Chiku, with her eyes the color of a stormy sea and a laugh that could melt glaciers, was his everything. Their relationship was a sanctuary, built on a foundation of open communication and a trust so absolute he sometimes wondered if he deserved it. Qualia was dusting the bookshelf, humming along to an old jazz tune, when his hand brushed against something strange. It felt loose, a slight give under the surface. Curiosity piqued. He gently pushed on it. The wood groaned, then snapped open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, nestled in a bed of dust, lay a single gleaming key. It wasn't his. His heart hammered against his ribs. This wasn't supposed to happen. Their love was built on trust, on absolute, unshakable trust. But now, doubt gnawed at him. Was this key the key to a secret he wasn't supposed to know? Panic clawed at his throat. Where did it come from? Chiku, his wife, the sun in his world, would never have mentioned such a thing. Doubt, a venomous serpent, slithered into the quiet contentment of their home. That night, Qualia lay awake, the key a burning coal in his palm. Images flickered through his mind. Clandestine meetings, hushed conversations, a life lived in shadows. He envisioned Chiku. His Chiku, the source of his joy, shrouded in mystery, her laughter a carefully constructed facade. The key lay heavy in Qualia's palm, its intricate carvings reflecting the flickering candlelight. Chiku sat across from him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and confusion. I don't know what that is, Qualia, she repeated, her voice trembling. I swear. Qualia looked at her, searching for a lie, for a flicker of deception in her eyes. He found none. Only fear, genuine and raw. He remembered the day he found the key. He'd been rearranging the bookshelf, a familiar ritual that usually soothed him. But this time, something felt different. A strange energy, a sense of unease had settled over him. And then, there it was, the key, nestled amongst the pages of an old poetry book. He hadn't immediately connected it to Chiku. It could have belonged to anyone, his father perhaps, or a previous owner of the house. But the doubt, once sown, had taken root. It grew with every passing hour, choking the joy out of their lives. Chiku, sensing his growing anxiety, reached out to him, her hand hesitant. Qualia, please believe me. I haven't been hiding anything from you. He looked at her, at the love shining in her eyes, the vulnerability etched on her face. He thought of all the years they had spent together, the laughter, the shared dreams, the unwavering support. Could all of that be a lie? Suddenly a memory surfaced, a small wooden box tucked away in the attic, a box she had always refused to let him open. What's in the attic, Chiku? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Chiku's eyes widened. Nothing important, she said quickly. Just some old things. Qualia saw the fear return to her eyes, but this time it was different. It wasn't the fear of being caught in a lie. It was the fear of losing him, of him discovering a truth she wasn't ready to share. He understood then. The key was just a catalyst, a spark that ignited the embers of long-buried anxieties and insecurities. The real issue wasn't the key itself, but the trust that had been subtly eroded over time by unspoken fears and unspoken secrets. The attic was dark and dusty, cobwebs hanging like ghostly fingers. Chiku stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes wide and scared. "Open it," Qualia demanded, his voice rough. He held the key up, its pointy end gleaming in the dim light. Chiku hesitated, her voice small. "Please, Qualia," she begged. "This is important to me." But Qualia was angry and hurt. He wanted answers, even if it meant hurting her. "Open it," he repeated, his voice louder. Chiku slowly walked towards a big wooden chest. Her hands trembled as she used the key. The lock clicked open with a loud sound. Qualia leaned forward, his heart beating fast. He expected to find secrets, maybe even something bad. But all he found were old things, dusty magazines, faded pictures, and some of his old toys. Just a bunch of junk, really. Qualia felt a wave of sadness wash over him. He had been so sure there was something wrong, something Chiku was hiding. He had hurt her. And for what? Old toys? Chiku looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "See?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "There's nothing." Qualia felt ashamed. He had been a fool. He reached out and held her close. "I'm so sorry, Chiku," he whispered, his voice thick with regret. "I was being stupid." Chiku held him tight, her tears finally spilling over. "It's okay," she said softly. "I know." They stood there in the dusty attic, surrounded by forgotten things. Qualia realized that the most important thing wasn't the chest, surrounded by forgotten things. The days that followed were a fragile truce. Qualia and Chiku tried to mend the cracks in their trust, but the silence between them was heavy. The attic, once a place of secrets, now felt like a tomb, a constant reminder of his shattered assumptions. One afternoon, while cleaning the attic, Qualia stumbled upon something he hadn't noticed before, a faded photograph tucked into an old magazine. It showed a young woman with a radiant smile, her hand clasped with a man who looked strikingly familiar. The man in the photograph was wearing a traditional cloth, one that Qualia recognized from stories Chiku had told him about her childhood village. It was a cloth worn only by those who had entered into a sacred covenant, a lifelong bond. The blood drained from Qualia's face. Chiku had lied. The key, the fear, the hidden chest. It wasn't about a forgotten past. It was about a secret life, a life she had kept hidden from him. He rushed downstairs, the photograph clutched tightly in his hand. Chiku was in the kitchen, humming a tune, preparing their evening meal. Her smile faltered when she saw the look on his face. The photograph held out like a weapon. "This?" he said, his voice trembling. "This is what you are hiding?" Chiku's eyes widened. She looked at the photograph, then at him, her face pale. "Qualia, please." He didn't want to hear her explanations. He didn't want to know the reasons, the excuses. All he felt was a crushing wave of betrayal, a pain that pierced his very soul. "A covenant," he whispered, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. "You made a covenant with another man." Chiku's lips trembled. It was a childhood promise," she explained, her voice barely audible. "A promise I never intended to keep." But her words fell on deaf ears. The covenant, the secret life, the lies, they had shattered the foundation of their marriage, leaving him with nothing but the bitter taste of betrayal and the crushing weight of a broken heart. He turned and walked out, the front door slamming shut behind him like a gunshot. The photograph fluttered to the floor, a silent testament to the love he had lost, the trust he could never regain.